The trades don't stop for the Toronto Raptors as we have another Woj bomb come out revealing that Dennis Schroder has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets in return for Spencer Dinwiddie. Thaddeus Young is also gone in this package, so we're going to break down what this deal is, why the Toronto Raptors actually did it, because on the surface, it seems fairly confusing for this Raptor squad. I mean, Schroder has been having an awesome season this year. He's resurged with the Toronto Raptors with an expanded role, so to deal him away for Spencer Dinwiddie, who some have been speculating has been on basketball strike playing for the Brooklyn Nets, some Raptors fans are confused, but we're going to break down the likely reasons as to why this deal ended up happening. So without further ado, before we jump into things, again, over 56% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel, and we want to keep you up to date with all the latest Toronto Raptors news, and things have been absolutely on fire right now. The reports, the news, the trades keep coming out. They don't stop for this Raptors team, and it looks like we still have a lot more to go. But what was the latest Woj bomb? What's the latest sort of report has dropped regarding the Toronto Raptors? So basically, Schroder to the Nets and Dinwiddie back to the Toronto Raptors. And Woj clarified that Thaddeus Young is also going to the Brooklyn Nets to make the money work. So that's basically what this deal is, the framework of this package. No more details have been released. I'm not sure if there's additional draft compensation or if there's picks coming back to Toronto. I mean, if we added picks into this, I'm turning my head a little bit at Masai Ujiri for this one, but basically, what's going on here? Because again, Spencer Dinwiddie is a guy the Raptors have been linked to for a very, very long time. Rumors have gone back to Norman Powell, a few years ago when Dinwiddie was originally with the Brooklyn Nets about how a deal almost went down that offseason. Then we obviously ended up trading for the star boy Gary Trent Jr., but well, Dinwiddie has been linked to the Toronto Raptors for fairly years. The Raptors finally pulled the trigger on bringing him in. Now, firstly, who is Dinwiddie the basketball player? Because some expect the Raptors might flip him, but if we keep him, could he fit? And the answer is he should be able to. 13 points per game, 6 assists for the Brooklyn Nets. Again, a guy that's been willing to come off the bench. He's a bit bigger than Dennis Schroder, and even though he's shooting 32% from the three-point line this season, he's a guy that has been able to sort of knock down the three ball in his seasons past. This season his three-point percentage is down a significant margin. Last year for the Brooklyn Nets after that trade was 28%, but with the Dallas Mavericks was shooting 40% behind the three-point line, and that's kind of the only season he was really knocking down shots from the eye test just because he hit so many big shots for the Dallas Mavericks. I was looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, but he's a guy that can space the floor, he can shoot, he can pass. He's a bigger guard, so he can drive in, and he's just a guy that gets you, he's a microwave out there on the offensive end, and he facilitates. He's not going to do anything too crazy, on the offensive end for your team. In terms of the actual shooting, that's Kaji, oh my god, my O'Shea stats bringing up the wrong stuff here, but for basically Spencer Dinwiddie from the corners, he's very effective. I mean, a lot of the 3 points he takes, relative to other players, other 3-point shooters across the league, aren't those spot up threes, but when he's taking them spot up, he's actually fairly effective, right? 45% from the corners, only 70% of his 30-point shots are assisted. If you look at this stat, that's actually fairly low. In previous years, it was only 60%, 50%, all these types of numbers. So again, he shoots a lot of threes, he shoots a lot of middies, and he can create shots off the dribble for himself. So the Raptors giving up Dennis Schroder, Dinwiddie, if we do end up keeping him, will be a capable guy of actually executing off the bench for the Toronto Raptors so far for this season. But what does this mean for the future? Because I don't think the Raptors look at this as particularly as an upgrade for this Raptor squad, because Schroder's been having an awesome year. As much hate, as much people have been bashing on him and, calling him the, tank, the Toronto Raptors tank 2024 commander, I think he's actually been pretty good for this Toronto Raptors team. So what's actually going on here? What's going on with this Raptors group? Well, you look at the contract situation for Spencer Dinwiddie, and I got the wrong stats here. Basically, he's an expiring $20 million per year for Spencer Dinwiddie here now at this point. So basically, he can the Raptors can let him go in the offseason, whereas Schroder was a guy that was likely going to pick up his option and be under contract for long term. So this seems like, to me, a cap flexibility move. Masai Ujiri's been screaming at the hilltop saying, I want some flexibility for the future. That's why we got draft picks in that Pascal Siakam trade. That's why we're looking for a first-round pick from Bruce Brown. And now with Dennis Schroder, who again, you're acquiring Dinwiddie, which is a step down below from what Dennis Schroder is able to provide, but you also have that flexibility now, and this allows the Raptors to, potentially bring back Kelly Olynyk, which it seems like the Raptors are pretty high on. Again, I keep looking at the tweets, I keep looking at all the latest updates and things like that there. Trades are probably happening as I'm recording these vids live, but the Raptors now have more flexibility going into next season, going into the offseason. Now, the team that might be tanking, might not be, we're not really sure with our current state of the roster, but acquiring a big Chabi, it's, Abaji, we're an interesting team right now, but giving up Schroder in this type of package, it doesn't signal guaranteed tank, but it doesn't signal guaranteed improvement. So we're inching down to the wire to see what the Toronto Raptors are going to actually do to close things out. We still have Gary Trent Jr. on the roster. We still have Bruce Brown here on the roster. We still have Boucher on the roster. And, there's a lot of expectations that those guys could also be dealt ahead of this year's trade deadline. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see what the Toronto Raptors move forward with, because things are going crazy right now. And, that's what's happening, because, man, I don't know. The Toronto Raptors, they still have us in flux. They still have us dangling. They haven't heated up. They've exploded already. We're feeling the ashes and stuff like that. But I do still predict Bruce Brown to be dealt by the end of this trade deadline. We need more forwards if we're going to compete, but I still don't know how we're going to look in terms of tanking, if we're going to keep our pick and things like that. But if we're planning on going the route of bottoming out, I don't know the direction right now. I can't give my actual insight into things until Masai Ujiri completes this trade deadline. We figure out what the direction of this team really is, because it does seem like Abaji is a guy that will fit in really well. Looking at some of his highlights over this afternoon, I'm more and more hyped about that acquisition. Obviously, I was pretty hyped about Kelly Olynyk himself, so I think that was a W. This trade, I think, is a little bit of an L, but we'll see how the Raptors maneuver the rest of the trade deadline before I really give this one a grade. But frankly, the Woj updates have been coming out left, right, and center. If you haven't watched previous videos, the Knicks are out of the running for Bruce Brown Jr. now, because they've acquired Bojan Bogdanovic as well as Alec Burks, one of those potential trade packages. So don't be shocked if the LA Lakers try to swoop in and then offer a different deal for Bruce Brown Jr. Now, it could be the Mavericks, it could be the Bucks, it could be a lot of different teams. The Bucks were interested in Dennis Schroder. They haven't made a big trade just yet, so I think they could be a sneaky team to sneak in for Bruce Brown here now at this point, or Gary Trent Jr., or some of these guys out there on the open market. Thaddeus Young, thank you for your service. Thank you for your journey on the Toronto Raptors. We had the Thaddeus Young animation here now at this point. So, we got him for Dragic. We lost, this wasn't the first round pick. This is where we lost the chance to lose Walker Kessler, but that trade is what it is. He's going back to the Brooklyn Nets, where he served previous seasons. But I'm getting phone calls here, so I'm looking at what's happening here. Charlotte fleeced Dallas, but apparently there's a Dallas trade going on here now at this point. I have to wrap my head around things. Things are crazy. My brain's going left, right, and center here now. But folks, you guys are best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel. Keep it up to date. Subscribe to the Raptors Digest so we can give you all the latest Toronto Raptors news. I'm going to go live later tonight after all the madness is settled, and we can dive into what really went on with the Toronto Raptors. But folks, you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.